Yeah, hi everybody. Ryan back here with you again today. Sunday morning, I believe, here on May 31st. Made it out to the Iowa 80 TA out here in Walcott, Iowa, or also known, the Iowa 80, biggest truck stop in the world or whatever. I'm not a big fan. I think it's kind of turned into a big tourist trap. I don't like really. I mean, they got a nice store and everything in there. Just kind of nice to check out, and there's a lot of parking, but that's really where it kind of ends. I mean, well, there's a nice big like chrome shop and a lot of stuff in there, but it's some of the stuff's reasonably priced, some of it's overpriced. But like I said, the food court, I mean, when you get a lot of travelers, people with four-wheelers, they're all in there and kind of rude and all that. So it's just I don't stop here a lot, but I had like $150 in points since I get fuel at TA and Petro, and I had all those saved up. So they got like a little kids toys thing in here, and so I went and got a few trucks and stuff for my little boys. So I usually just save my points and stuff for them. So I got those. Then I had a little bit. Was gonna do a video yesterday over in. I stopped in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So I made it from Boise, Idaho to Cheyenne, Wyoming yesterday, or the night overnight. It was like 740 miles or so. I did that in about 10 hours. Got it over there about 9:45. And I do a pretty good post trip, and I'm pretty fanatical about steer tires since I do run, higher speeds, 75, or sometime when I'm rushed like this load, if it's 80, I will run 80. So I always check everything out pretty well, check my hubs, make sure none of them are getting hot. And I'm going to show you guys a couple little, I know everybody knows how to do a post trip. I mean, most of you should, but as a mechanic and a little bit of technical knowledge, I'm going to show you a couple other things that nobody else might not have shown you in truck driving school or training or any of that type of thing, that might save you some trouble down the road. But anyways, I got out down there at Cheyenne at the TA, or Burns, right outside, east side of Cheyenne, and was checking out one of my, just happened to look at this driver's side steer over here, and right on top, right in front of me, there was a perfect circular hole. Like I have no idea. I mean, it was so precisely cut. It almost, I mean, if you've ever seen like a hole saw you use for wood or steel, it almost looks like I might have ran one of those over somewhere on the road or something. I mean, I'm pretty vigilant, when I'm in lots or backing in customers and stuff like that. But it was like about a 3-inch circular hole that it was a cut all the way down through the tread. And I took my knife and kind of dug in there a little bit, stuck a flashlight in there, and it was all the way down to the steel cords and nylon and everything. And these are practically, I mean, these Michelins are 4 months old. I think I got these back in mid-January, into January, down at the TA down there in Eloy, outside of Phoenix, Arizona. And they're pretty expensive tires. And so any defect, I don't mess around with steer tires. So I had to, I had to get a new tire down there. So I was kind of, I wanted to do a video on it and all that. But I was kind of running around with the chicken with my head cut off, trying to get in the shop and get the tire, get that tire replaced. And that way I went ahead, because I'm kind of in a hurry with this run, so I didn't want to mess around too much. And luckily they got me in. They had a guy there in the morning. That's just one good thing about driving at nights, is that when you come in the morning, if you need something, usually you can get right into the shops. But I got in and out in like an hour and a half, so that worked out pretty well. I went through LCAP on the tire this time to get the discount. The cash and carry price was $615, so I'm going to call LCAP tomorrow, Monday, and settle up with them, and I'll give you all a price, what it comes out with the discount, so you can kind of get a figure what you're getting on discount here as far as tires go. I'm like I said, I'm pretty fanatical about steer tires. I only use I use 16 ply only for steers. I mean, if you're using 14 ply, if you look at the weight rating on them, I mean, you're right at, I don't even think you're at 12,000 pounds the time you combine the two tires. I think they're right at 12,000 or a little bit under. So if you're running 14 ply steers, and I know my truck, I'm pretty much at 11.7 to 12,000 all the time. Even empty, I'm like at 11.6, 11.7 on the front axle. So if you're running 14 ply, you're basically maxed out on those front tires at all times. I mean, basically, that's why I go with the 16, because that gives me about 14,000, so I got about 2,000 pounds capacity over what they're not, so I'm not overloading the tires constantly. And that's less risk of a tire getting hot, blowouts and that thing, because you don't ever want a steer tire to blow out. It's not a good thing. So I was going to show you the coil comm here, and I had one other little tip I wanted to show you on that, on the personal conveyance. And I also wanted to show you the hours I had here. So right now I'm 871 miles out from Manassas, Virginia, and so my Google Maps, that's what I usually use for GPS. I keep a Rand McNally, you know, Trucker's Atlas back here, check all my routes, and I usually just use my phone GPS, and I go through it and make sure all the loads or the roads and are legal and there's no load clearances, and you know, just use common sense with it, and that's usually it's always up to date, and it shows me the traffic and all that stuff. So that's why I use that. But I'm showing 13 hours and 22 minutes from where I sit, and I believe I have right now just under 15 hours, I believe, on the clock left from my 70. 14 hours and 50 minutes to be exact. I actually get time back Tuesday night, so I'd be getting like 8 hours back that night anyways to make it down there Tuesday morning. But I called the guy that I'm delivering with on Friday after I picked up, and kind of told him the situation, and that I was kind of running low on hours and all that, and he said I could just go ahead and bring it in on the 3rd on Wednesday. So actually kind of going by my house on the way, so I'll be home. I'm going to stop by there. I'm going to leave here at 8 o'clock tonight, and I'm only 7.5 hours from you know, up to Cleveland, Akron area, and so I'll be home tomorrow about 6 o'clock. I probably can get a 34-hour in at home and get back on the road, but I may just come back home after this load, see what's down there and what's kind of coming out next week, and you know, kind of be home for 4 or 5 days or something, so see how that goes. But so that kind of worked out well. So I'll get to be home for all day Monday, tomorrow, and Tuesday, and I'll leave out Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, depending on exactly what time he wants me to be down there. It's actually they're building a semiconductor factory plant down there in Manassas. It's like a $1.6 billion project or something, and that's what all this equipment is. It's like cooling equipment for some type of process. So it's going to like a big construction site down there is where it's going. So try to get some video of that when I'm down there, if they'll let me, if there's anything cool to see. But I'll go ahead and show you the couple things I want to show on the coil comm here. Then I'm gonna go, actually, well, okay, I'll do that in a second. But I want to show you a couple things that I was talking about on that post trip, a couple extras, and there's one other thing I wanted to talk about too before we conclude this. Okay, so here's what I have left on time: 1450 hours on the 70, and we'll go at 8 days. So right now I'm showing 2 zeros. So this will be tonight. This will be tomorrow night. That'll be Monday night. So Tuesday night, I'm gonna get back. Oh, what did I do? No. All right. Yeah. So Tuesday night, I'm gonna get back that 8 hours and 6 minutes. Then so on and so on. But like I said, I'll probably get 34 hours in. So that's gonna reset. These will still be on there. But once you do a 34-hour reset, it throws out your recap, so you don't get to use both. You can either do the recap or you can do a 34 hours. But once you do a 34-hour, those hours it starts over. I mean, it'll show them, but they won't be in the cycle anymore as far as a recap. The other thing I want to show you, I screwed up when I was up in Idaho, and when I was on personal conveyance when I moved out of that delivery up there in Twin Falls. And I forgot to change it over until I finally caught it, because I usually darken my screen, and I was going to check how much time I had, and then I seen it was on personal conveyance. It won't show you on when you're driving. It just says personal. It'll say driving or personal conveyance across here. But so I'd driven about an hour and 45 minutes, I believe, on personal conveyance because I didn't change it back over. And if you go over 2 hours here, that it throws up a flag, and they'll call you about it and ask you. They don't want you going over 2 hours on personal conveyance. But the thing I wanted to show you is, if you go, where you certify your logs and you can do edits. So it was right here. So I already changed it. So this was originally personal conveyance, and I changed it back to driving, just to make it all legal and keep everybody happy. But the thing is, I want to tell you guys, if you do that, like if you're on personal conveyance and you decide, for what reason or another you want to change it to driving, then you go ahead and do the edit process and complete it. If you go back and try to change it back to personal conveyance, it will not let you. So it's one-way street with that. So if you're thinking about if you're using personal conveyance and you're thinking, oh, I better change it to driving, then you're like, oh, maybe I should change it back to personal conveyance. think about that real hard, because once you make that decision, that's it. You can't go back. You cannot go back to personal conveyance. So just keep that in mind with this. So now certify that. So, and that's that. So that, I just wanted to hit on that. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about before we go outside here. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about, kind of along with the post-trip thing, it's kind of related but unrelated. So I just parked. I came in here this morning at this the I-80 TA here. Pulled up. I always kind of combine my post-trips or pre-trips with my fueling. That way I'm not doing a separate pull-off, and you know, because every time you get off the highway, you waste 10 to 15 minutes. You know, the time you're getting off the exit, you slow down, get off the exit, stop, turn, drive wherever you got to drive. Get back on the highway, accelerate, and get back up to road speed. You've lost 10 to 15 minutes every time you get off the highway. So I always try to combine. If I need to get fuel, if it works into my plan, you know, I'll do a 30-minute break and get fuel. I usually try to do my 30-minute breaks at a rest area where I can pull in and pull out, and not have to go through stoplights and all that. But I typically, like I said, do my fueling when I'm doing my post trip. You know, because you got 2 lines on the coil column. You can put in fueling and post trip, and you know, show 12 minutes or whatever, and be done with life. But so I pulled up here, and there was a guy. I was getting fuel, and this guy in a big, you know, nice shiny high-dollar Peterbilt rolls up next to me, pulls up to the pump, and just immediately shuts the truck off. And that I see guys doing it all the time, and that comes from, I know, the company driver side, where they don't want you idling at all. They want you to shut the truck off immediately. If you own your truck, you are killing your engine doing that. You are just absolutely, all the top end parts. If you got, you know, an overhead cam, all your overhead assembly, you know, the rocker assemblies, all that stuff, you need to let that engine needs to cool, you know, for 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm going to show you right here. This is a manual. You know, there are many like it. Yours may look different. This is for Cummins Ep.6 15 and CM2250, and there is a engine shutdown procedure in here. And I know when I had my pack car and my T680, they had kind of a weird shutdown procedure. If you look in your engine manual, it tells you, I think they wanted you to idle it at 1,000 RPM for 3 minutes, and then they wanted you to kick it back down to regular idle for, I think, 2 minutes or something like that. I can't remember, you know, 100% for sure, but they had kind of there was a specific shutdown procedure for that engine, not just roll up to the pumps and shut it off. When I'm at the pumps, I don't even shut my truck off. You know, I like to let it run for about 10 minutes and let everything cool down. But you know, for this engine here, I'll read you what it says. Allow the engine to idle 3 to 5 minutes before shutting it off after a full load operation. This allows adequate cool down of pistons, cylinders, bearings, and turbocharger components. So, I mean, when you shut this engine off, your turbo is still going to spin, and it's going to spin unlubricated. So if it's still warm, you need to cool those bearings with that oil. So I mean, I let mine run for at least you know, 5 minutes or so. Sometimes if it's warmer, I'll kick it up to, you know, 800 or 1,000 RPM, and then let it idle for a couple more minutes at low idle, then shut it off. But I know on my truck I have a oil temperature gauge, and I usually won't shut it off until I'm under 200 degrees. And the same thing with the water temperature. I like to let everything get below 200 degrees before I shut anything off. So yeah, I don't. If you own your own truck and you got a big, nice, high-dollar, you know, Peterbilt or one of these W900 Kendall or something, these guys, I just cringe. I mean, when they pull up and just shut it off. I mean, so, you know, look at your manual for your engine and see what it says, and I would follow that procedure because it's there for a reason. So with that, I will go on to the pre-trip thing I wanted to talk about. They're outside, and we'll wrap up. This guy opened up. Sorry if my sound doesn't get out here. I have a little external speaker, but I don't want my wife to know, but I think I might have lost it somewhere. Or a microphone, not a speaker. Just a second. Okay, so this is my one of my Michelin steers out here, and I had to replace it on the other side. But on the other side, I wish I would have took a picture of it, but everything just happened quick, and I was trying to get out of there. But it had like a perfect circular hole. I mean, it was the same size as this. So, I mean, it was like that width. So it was something actually like a saw or something that I ran over, but it was right in the center, and it went all the way down. It probably went in there from the top of this tread, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So I can't believe it didn't puncture it, because it was all the way down. You could see the steel belts. And if you guys get a, if you ever see any tears or anything down in these, or you know, especially down the bottom, what I usually do is you can, I mean, if you have something, you can put a, I mean, I don't have one here, but if I did, I'll put my knife down in there and just kind of separate it with a flashlight and look down in there and see if you can see any steel or any type of belts or nylon belts or anything. Because if you do, that is a DOT out of service violation if there's any belts showing. So that's one thing you want to look for. I mean, if there's nothing showing, you're all right, but I'm still kind of nervous about it. Like I said, I don't take any chances on steer tires, and I don't recommend anybody else. And like I said, I recommend using a quality tire and 16 plies. So that was pretty well that tear or that cut in the tire. The other thing I want to talk about when I pre-tread, there's two things that I like to do when I get out. I mean, I'd like to do it pretty quick, like as soon as I get out of the truck and park. I'll come around and kind of touch the tires with the back of your hand to feel if they're warm. Especially, I mean, your steers they usually get a little bit warmer because the engine and everything. But back on your drive tires, they shouldn't get warm. If you got a tire getting warm, you may have a tire pressure issue where it's heating up, or yes, I mean, eventually, if you got a tire getting warm, it could blow. So something to watch out for. Also, your hubs, I like to feel those and do all this stuff with the back of your hand, because you don't want to. I mean, if something's hot, you don't want to. It's better to burn the back of your hand than your palm. So I always just kind of touch the hubs and just make sure nothing's warm, because if you got a warm hub, you could have bearing problem going, or it could be low oil. And you know, you can pull these off to check your oil level. If you can't see, you can pop that right out. I'm on my gloves on right now, but you can pop that rubber out, put it back, you know, and check the oil level. It should be, there's a line right there where it should be at. Other than that, like I said, I always like you could either have a bearing problem, an oil problem, or you could have your brakes. You could have a brake issue. I mean, brakes get hot too. But usually they won't transfer as much unless you get the brakes really hot. It won't transfer that much heat to the hubs. So that's on the steer there. Then on my back axle, like I said, I always walk around. I give my tires a good kick, and then like I said, I always kind of feel all my tires with the back of my hand just to make sure there's none getting hot. And with your hubs back here, you want to do the same thing. Just kind of feel around and make sure they're not getting hot, because you could, like I said, again, you got a bearing issue or an oil issue, and that's checked back on the axle and the pumpkin itself. I think if you watch pulling a differential carrier assembly video I show you how I kind of showed how to check the oil in these. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, I do the same thing on the trailer. Check the hubs back there the same way, and check the tires. Because like I said, if you got a hot tire, I'd be checking air pressure, and you might have a blowout eventually if you got one getting really hot. That's how they usually start. So that'll kind of give you an indicator. But that's really all I got today. Said I was hoping to get this out yesterday, but everything was just so quick, and I'm kind of in a rush. I got some other videos I'm working on. I'm going to get out to you guys soon, probably next week. And said hopefully get back on tomorrow and Tuesday. And hope everybody has a good rest of the weekend. But thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe, and we appreciate all the compliments, comments, and all that. So thanks. Have a good day.